Hello, good morning. This is Kennedy. I wish to share some theological input with you, some theological reflection regarding the COVID-19. Yeah, it's something I'm pretty sure you will enjoy. I've been thinking about the new world that the COVID-19 has created, and actually, when you look at it well, you better start getting used to it. Things are not going to be normal. Things are not going to things are not going to be the way they were before. The world has changed, and the sooner we change to adapt to the new world, the better for us. I've been thinking about governments. First, how they've responded to the whole situation, and you're left wondering. Some governments have taken advantage of the old situation and have used it to enrich themselves, asking for a lot of money in the name of seeking to intervene in the situation and then not intervening. I think about the churches, especially the closure of churches. And I'm left thinking, that what is God telling us about the closure of churches? Like, why would God want churches closed? It's only a mad God who will think even about allowing a situation to happen that subjects people, faithful people, into not worshipping at all. But then I come to think about it upon deeper reflection, and I think God wants something more. God wants to tell us something more, that His presence is distributed all over the world, that His reach is within everybody else, is within every household, is within every slum, is within every high place, is within every business. We have in the past confined God's presence into structures. And right now God is telling us something more. That even as we will be opening those structures, we need to open our scope of understanding of His presence. That His presence cannot be confined to a particular place. I've been thinking about the vulnerable, the poor people, and everybody else takes advantage of it. Churches take advantage of them. Leaders of government take advantage of them. The poor unemployed. I think about their situations, especially those who are in cities, especially those who are in the slums, especially those who are really poor. The people that everybody steals from. The government steals money in the name of we want to intervene in the lives of the poor. The organizations, non-governmental organizations, steal from them, claim money in the name of supporting them and do nothing about it. The churches steal from them. These are people that I think I would be moved. And right now, I think I'm moved. When I'm a woman, girl, child, father struggling to raise the family, rendered jobless, in a situation where you have to live in a house that is rented. You can't raise money to pay for the rent. God forbid, sickness happen. You can't even raise money to take your kid to the hospital. Leave alone the hospital, the most basic need. You got to leave, thinking whether you will eat something tomorrow. These are the people that were at the very heart of Jesus. And I'm pretty sure that God is moved. God is moved because of these people. Because of these people. The situation has confined them into a situation where they don't know whether they should continue living or just surrender to death. the pressure of the pandemic is at the core of their life. The financial crisis, the health crisis, the floods, and everything else. It is very easy to point finger to God and say, hey, where are you, God, in all these things, even as they happen? But does God create the situation? Is God behind it? Is God the cause of the pandemic? No. I think God is not the cause of the pandemic. He is actually a solution to it. And right now I'm thinking that God, I'm not thinking, but something is telling me that this twin year is the year of God's immense grace. It's the year of God's presence. It's the year of God's power. And I will use Romans 5 verses 20. That in weakness, God's strength is manifested. Where sin abounded, God's mercies abounded even the more. I will use another verse in the Bible called in 2 Corinthians verses 12, chapter 12 verses 9. Where God says to Paul that my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. Why am I saying so? Let me try to connect that to the situation that we are in the pandemic. That the situation of the COVID-19 has subjected the world into brokenness, into weakness, into vulnerability. That the world is so much broken that even if God was so mad, he would be moved. That the world is so much needy that even if God was so unbothered, he would be bothered. And right now, more than ever, God's presence is closest to the people more. Look at it. Whenever the Israelites were exiled, they learned that the only person who could take them out of exile is God. It's not God who exiled the Israelites. The Israelites became proud and comfortable and thought they could move without God. And in that way, their relationship took them further and further from God. Took them further and further from God. And then what happened? Whenever you leave God's presence, what happens to you? You are exposed to the enemy. Exile actually means that you've left the comfort of your father and exposed yourself to the enemies. Now this is what has happened. That we got so comfortable, the whole world got comfortable living without a God, and that comfort created a situation in which we exiled ourselves, exposed ourselves to the enemy. We became more vulnerable because we left God's comfort zone and separated ourselves. We embraced wealth at the expense of God. We embraced technology at the expense of God. We embraced, how do you call it, mansions, immorality of all kinds at the expense of God. And what happens to that? That it is not God that caused the pandemic. You sit, somebody sits, it is not God who sits in the laboratory to create inventions. It's not God who sits into the, how do you call it, who invents weapons of mass destruction, right? That which inspires the invention. If inventions were built upon life, then life would be far much bearable than it is now. But as it were, every other invention was built with interest of hatred. Why would somebody sit to invest the human mental capacity in thinking about nuclear weapons and all those other things? That is the world that we live in. Why would you want to create something that will destroy the world rather than create something that will build life? Okay. When you sit in the laboratory trying to discover, every day you are tireless. Every day working, using your God-given brain in order to discover biological weapon. What is driving you? What are you thinking about? That you want to neutralize the lives of other people. And then later on, when these weapons that you discovered as a human person begin to destroy the humanity, what do we say? We blame God. We start asking, where was God in all this? And then in the actual sense, when we elect leaders that are so corrupt, later on we face the wrath of the decisions that we made. We sit down and start asking, where are you, God? When I'm being humiliated, when I'm being suppressed by the very leader that I chose, where are you, God? How do we blame God in decisions that we have made ourselves? When the government have the opportunity to make better infrastructures, better economies, and all those things, and they do nothing about it. When we follow the roads that our governments cannot fix, we start thinking about God. That God, where are you in all these things? So there is one thing. My discussion around the pandemic is one that might be very not controversial as such. But my thinking is that it's right time to think about God being so close. And what is inspiring God's closeness is nothing more than the situation of the poor people. Is closest to them. Is trying to reach out to them. He's trying to reach out to them so that he may lift them, so that he may raise them up. Listen. That Jesus came into the world to redeem people was not out of fun. That God sent his only Son into the world to redeem the world was not out of fun. It's not like Jesus sat into the Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit sat down and then thought about, one of us should go down there and redeem the world. No, there is something. The situation of the people, the pain, the brokenness, the vulnerability of the people moved God. That God became bothered. That God summoned a meeting to intervene, not out of fun, but out of a situation that was demanding, was so daring that one of us has to go and do something about the situation of those people. So he sent his Son. Because something about the human person bothered God. So made God to call for a meeting and ask one of them to come and intervene in the situation of the world. When the world is broken, in as much as the creation is disturbed, it is always the Creator that is more concerned, because it is the Creator who is behind the creation. It is God that is more bothered when the world is broken right now. Right now, the world is extremely broken. Everybody else is crying. Even people who never call the name of God are trying even to pronounce it. Why? And God is watching everything happen. Watching the global warming that we want to blame on. God is watching the brokenness, the destruction, and the death that is caused by the human interventions, human inventions. And I wanted to say this, that any invention in this world that has no foundation in God will only destroy the world for you. And if you analyze most of the world's inventions, they're all built towards neutralizing the other person. You talk about the biological weapons, you talk about the nuclear weapons, you talk about whatever is it. Everything else that human person has ever discovered, they were built not on the foundation of God, but they were built on the foundation of it. And that is what Paul said. If John Paul must have prophesied what would become of this millennium, when he said that if Jesus is not the center of the millennium, that millennium will be a very destructive one. And you can already see there's a lot of destructions happening almost everywhere. But my concern is that I refuse theologies that think about God as the cause of harm to the human person. And God will be so stupid to even think about destroying his own thing, that I should create something only to destroy it. What kind of God is that? That you create the world, and you create the beautiful world. And even in the book of Genesis, it said that on the seventh day, God sat and looked at what he had created, and behold, it was good. And how would a good God become the center of destruction of what he created? What I'm trying to say is that God respects the human free will. God respects the human person's inventions. Right. But sometimes some of these inventions, they stray us from God. They cause calamities that sometimes we cannot overcome. And at that time, that is when God comes to intervene. It is God who is more bothered about the broken world than the creation. Because the creation is God's, so he will be more concerned. Let me use an example of a landlord. A landlord builds a house and hears that the house is in flames. In as much as the tenants are affected, the persons who created the house will be more affected because he created it for a purpose. If creation is disturbed, if creation is bothered, the person who is more concerned, the person who is more disturbed is God himself. The pandemic has disorganized the world, and the person who organized the world is more bothered than us. That is why I would say that this is a moment of grace, that there is no way that God is going to recreate the world and except by unleashing his power to the world. And that is the reason why I'm saying that think again about this pandemic. It is a moment in which God is so closest to the human person because he is being bothered. He is bothered about the brokenness of the world, and he is too close to start the reorganization. And he needs someone, he needs an agent to help in the reorganization of the world. What did pride give us? Divided the world into functions, into people who were the elite and the non-elite, into the blacks and the whites, into the learned and the unlearned, into the poor and the rich. The functions in the world, even if you are God, watching that the world that you created to be a one world is divided, is operating in functions, you would want something to change about it. I'm tired of the functions. I'm tired. I'm pretty sure God will be tired too of the functions that we have created in the world. More than functions, we have created classes, ethnic classes, other classes, the learned classes, elite class, the class of the fashionable, and the class of everybody else, the rest, And there is always some people in these functions that suffer as a result of such systems that we create. The systems that the America created about racism affected a particular. The functions that we have created even here in it divides people and actually make God. I don't know what God thinks about such divisions, because He intended creation to be one. Actually, I wouldn't think of myself as better than animals, because as it were, I'm not superior to any other human person. God created me to be me, and God created me to help the world to be a better place. So I think this pandemic should help us to start reflection about God's presence, God's power being this close to us, God's power being this close. I pray and have reflection these days, and I am shocked at the immense power that God gives human. God is close because He wants to help us. He wants to work with us to reorganize the world for the better. And some people have to think about it. Somebody has to do it. We are going to do it together. Forget about everything else that I have said. I want you to understand that God is closest, especially during this time of the pandemic, because there is nobody who is moved more than the Creator when creation is disturbed. The pandemic has disturbed the world, and the person who is facing the consequences of the disturbance is the person behind the creation. And he is the same person who is concerned and bothered and ready to reorganize the world for the better. And there is no way God is going to reorganize the world better without unleashing His power to the world. And that is the basis of my claim, that based on the fact that God has moved closest to the human person makes His power more manifest. It is only us as a human person who should now begin reflecting. Start thinking about God's power, embrace God's power, and use that power of God to reorganize the world, to rebuild the world, to rechannel the world, to rewrite the wrong narratives, the narratives of hatred, to rewrite the wrong narratives, the narratives of racism, to rewrite all the narratives. The narratives of classes and functions in our world, to rewrite the narrative of hatred to the narrative of compassionate love. God came and demonstrated that the only way for us in this world is to demonstrate compassion to the people in need. But still, no, what have we done? Everybody is a competitor with each other. We are at competition with everybody else in the world. You watch your brother that you suckled the same breast when you were young. When you come up, you start fighting over land, competing over wives, competing over who is the most learned and who is not. You realize it is useless competition. Our skills, our power should only make sense when we other people are empowered as a result of the power we have. Our skills only make sense only when those skills are used to empower the other person who is not skilled. Our wealth actually makes no sense, actually becomes the source of our destruction if those wealth are not channeled to help the poor. They will kill you. Actually, you amass so much wealth, you eat so much food, in the end what happens to you? You destroy yourself. God's blessing can destroy you if they are not channeled. God uses you to channel His blessing to the people, but you in your political position, you in your religious position, you in your whatever position, you use the wealth of God to think that now you become supreme more than the same God who provides it for you. what I think is, it is a reawakening. It's a time that we need to rethink about our own theologies, to rethink about our philosophies of life, and to allow for a philosophy of compassionate love, to allow for a philosophy that invents life, that recreates life, that rebuilds life, that all our inventions, human inventions, must be founded on life itself, not on hate. You don't build a nuclear weapon with a mind to neutralize another person. We would be thinking about how would we make nations that are younger better, rather than take a lot of investment, put a lot of budget in military weapons. Why would we build perimeter walls? What is it that we are trying to hide from? What are we running away from? You build a perimeter wall because you're protecting yourself from the human persons. You create nuclear weapons because you're scared of some other nations. You create biological weapons because you think that China might just rise tomorrow and neutralize you. No. If we were inspired by life, we would be inventing things that build life, not things that destroy life. So all inventions that are not founded on God and on life are doomed inventions. We need to rethink our inventions, that all inventions must be geared towards reinventing, rediscovering, and rebuilding life. Be blessed.